Alright, I'm basically here because I've been talking to myself for the last 10 minutes. And I think this is a really good opportunity to discuss, like just out loud. So we'll look at the chart. It's Ada, obviously. It's fucking haunting. Now the problem that I've got with Ada is, and I'm just going to start this, okay, and we'll let people catch up, because we'll do this on replay as well. So I'm going to lay it out exactly how I feel about Ada. Okay, I feel as though the pump is coming. I feel as though they're going to pump the daily open or very close to it. If I look at RSI, it's pretty much exactly what it says to me. Okay, it basically says the move is coming. Okay, the move is imminent. I got tagged the first time, and I think that was fine because I made the play early. And I think this time I still have to take the same play. The reason that I have the thought process I do, and I'll go through the thoughts now. When you look at the reaction of Ada at the bottom trend line of this hourly red line that's, splayed across the bottom at the minute on the 5-minute chart, you can see that there's a strong divergence that develops as soon as we trade outside of that level. So it gives me a pretty good indication that there's some strength of buyers underneath there. Right, so I get this pretty decent idea that there's probably some buyers lurking around here that are looking at basically at trying to take this play upwards. We know from the hourly perspective as well that this is just a nice consolidation. We're anticipating that this consolidation breaks to the upside because we've had a really nice strong move. So really nice strong move, consolidation, and then a continued break to the upside with the first take profit region across here. Now, there are two ways that I can enter this position, and this is kind of what I've been musing. So the two options are I take an entry now of 50% of my position size, and I close if we get out the bottom of this trend line. The benefits of that are take a slightly earlier entry, reduce the risk, and get out if we make a break below. Makes sense. I add to the position 50% if we get a break out the top on the hourly, and give myself an average entry of somewhere up here. The downsides to that are I could be wrong and we could break the bottom. So we could fall out the bottom of this. That's one thing that could happen quite easily. And that's fine. I lose a reduced position size if that's the case. If I wait for the hourly, which is the other side. So the other side of this is I wait until the hourly breaks clear of the consolidation. I instead long the impulse that breaks as clear. What I lose if I take that option is about 1%. Okay, because if I take it like here, right, I get like 4%, and my average entry is going to be around here. Maybe a little bit worse, maybe like here. So I lose basically 1% of value. Now, is the risk worth me losing 1%, or should I be waiting for the 1%? So I lose 1% of value, and this is going towards my first take profit region, right, which is like the 138, 139, 140 region. The other side and the downside to waiting is we could fake out. I put the chances of faking out relatively low. So if RSI leads me to believe what I think it's trying to lead me to believe, I put the chances of this faking out relatively low. But that's the risk I have to take if I take an upside break, is that we do get a fake out. So what I'm dealing with at the moment is essentially a position where I can either take entry early and have a reduced risk, but potentially have my second stop on Ada in a relatively tight range. I get better value from that trade, and I manage my stop better to the downside as well. That's the advantages. The advantages of waiting for the hourly break. I get to see the strength. And I get confirmation that my thought process at the lower trend line is probably correct. I lose 1% of value. I don't get to position as well in terms of the stop. And I have to take 100% of the position size immediately. %35% now, 35% lower, and 35% on a breakout. We'll take it as 33s, but potentially. My thing is like, adding lower in these sort of plays is more of a concern for me than anything else. Because, right, I want to catch the upside momentum, which is why the last position was managed in the way it was. Because either it gives me the breakout there and then, or I get out of the position. So I don't really want to add lower. I would rather just be out of the trade. I would much rather buy into the momentum swing. Yeah, the triple div's fine. The triple div's fine. Like I said in the daily update video, like the triple div looks legit. If you're long on ETH, you may want to consider hedging any position. I haven't hedged my position, but I'm kind of okay in just relaxing with it for now. But I think it's a decent opportunity to hedge. What about option C, wait for a fake breakdown on the daily open? Yeah, so that's another part of the consideration that I didn't mention, which is we're 5 minutes off the daily close. And we know there's potentially fuckery afoot. So there's a number of things to consider here. I think the safest option is to play the hourly break. Because like I said, I put the chances of a fake out relatively low. If it happens to me, it happens. Because I think BTC breaks the upside as well. I think BTC is going to push. Chance for BTC it gets down to 33,300. I think there's a pretty good chance that BTC tries to push and break as well. The BTC setup is quite similar to ADA's. ETH is far stronger, and ETH has the divergence. So this would still be the concern. But like BTC did something very similar with the div to ADA, like forming these really funky divergences quite high up. So it's an interesting thought process on ADA, on how this is played. Reason for the low chance of the fake out is RSI, yes. No, I've not taken the position yet. Yeah, so we would anticipate this would be like, the way that ADA is, like the way that I'm viewing ADA here is, this is a really nice trend line break here. On the 4 hour it looks great. And I think this is just a tight consolidation before another move higher. And I think the upside potential for ADA is actually very, very good. When we take a look at kind of like the higher time frame, I think the upside potential for ADA is quite strong. It's why I think this move has, quite a lot of potential. I think best case scenario is 22%. Worst case scenario on a fake out, it's probably 4%. Another take profit at 10%, and then final take profit up here at 22%. Maybe dream scenario is this one, into here. I mean, dream scenario is here. But I think there is good upside potential in ADA, and it's one of those trades that I think because of the areas of interest here, the 160s, I think it just offers a really nice trade because I can manage this. So the reason I like it is that if I can catch the momentum here, then I can manage whatever happens here. I don't know, it's just one that I've become fixated on, and I thought this was a relatively interesting discussion point on this price action, how we deal with it. You wouldn't use the 15-minute. I could. It might give me a slightly better entry. I'd have to take a high break. Yeah, I mean, maybe it gives me slight value. I think it would be a similar process as well in terms of, like the thinking here would be the same. Other downside here is this low. So the fact we made a low against here is a negative. I don't know, this is just a really interesting discussion point. Like a really interesting moment. Because like I said, I think they push market wide. It just has that feeling for me. I think PTC pushes, I think alts push, I think that the daily open is green, I think that they run it through Asia. That's basically what RSI says to me. I think they just run everything green. And it's just whether or not ADA breaks out now, or whether or not it's going to do any bullshit around here. Alright, so here's the open. We'll see how this starts. I guess we're looking at breaks. Let's see what happens. We don't want to take any rush decisions here based on the PA we're seeing to open up the day. Yeah, relatively strong open, but again, we know that this is all bullshit for the first 5 minutes anyway. Lower time frame downside here for ADA is that it's tapped into this. Oh, just shy of this. Just tapped into the wicks. And so this is a relatively aggressive area that we've seen, the sellers acting in. So that's the negative here. Let's see what happens. If ETH plays out its div here, then we're red. If ETH decides that it's gonna take this downside move now and start heading into the lows, then obviously good game. Target for ETH is 1845. No, like it makes sense, but yeah, it's like all the way down here. I mean, maybe too much. Like you would hope that 1880 holds. It really depends on what the reaction is, you know, because ETH could easily try and hold up here. So it could have like one sharp sell off here and then try and hold up in this region still. You know, or we get the sell-off that comes back down here, but this would feel like a very aggressive region to hit. Absolutely possible though. Absolutely possible. We are still downtrending. I would expect RSI, if this div plays out, if we're more bullish, I would expect the RSI to stop at 50. And if this is going to be more bearish, then I would expect us to sell all the way through. Levels are still the same, so I think the most important level is kind of like 2050 and then the low 2000s here. So I think if ETH can stay above this 2000, that's pretty good. So when you look at the 12-hour, these have been good closes for ETH here. But you know, coming back down into this, you know, maybe 1965 into 2000, somewhere in that region. So we just got a classic supply and demand situation here. We have a classic supply and demand situation. Sellers here, buyers here. Which side wins? It's basically what we're caught in. And like I said, RSI indicates that the buyers win. I guess we'll find out soon. I just feel like everything rips, man. That's what it feels like. And like if I re-enter this, then I have to take it here above these highs. And I have to start the stop again down here. But we can handle that. We'll go 139 for the kickoff if we take this again. Wouldn't ADA just do what BTC does? Yeah. Well, I assume that BTC will move higher. I assume that BTC will move higher. So I assume that ADA will. And the thing that I think is that I think that ADA will move more aggressively than BTC will. I think ADA has more expansion potential than BTC does. Hence why I think it will probably outperform if it does break. Which is why I'd rather take a position on ADA. From a higher time frame perspective, do you think we'll see a lot of choppy action for multiple weeks? Or could this be a shakeout to convince many to turn bullish again and then correct violently? I still think it will continue to chop. I think we're just, I mentioned this multiple times. If you assume that BTC is still range bound, it's taken out all of the lows and therefore you would expect it to now try and attack the highs. No, that's just the way it works. So we now just expect BTC to try and attack some of that upside liquidity and therefore attack some of the short stops, which is probably what it's going to attempt to do, now, hopefully. Which puts us into the kind of, $36,500 region. But I still think that chop and range is more than likely. Will I wait for a close or just buy in a breakout? It depends. Depends how the structure happens here. If we start to consolidate here, I mean, it's going to be less time than that, right? It's going to be like this. Then I may consider buying into this. So it really depends on what takes place here. If at all, of course, if at all, because we could just do this. Thought process on why ADA RSI here is bullish. It's at the 50 level on a lot of time frames. There's a really big trend line break. RSI has cooled off to the 50 level on multiple time frames, the hourly, the 4 hour. It looks as though it could be primed to try and take the move higher. Unit called ADA to 10. Yeah, I didn't really have much interaction with Unit. My time was, I think, after a lot had transpired with Unit. Which I think is probably for the best, because given the interaction that I did see, I don't think that me and him would have got on particularly well. Yeah, I kind of got that impression. Okay, we're going to monitor this 15-minute candle close, because this will give us a good interaction now in the next 5 minutes or so. I swear to God, if this position does what Sol did to me. Man, there's some nice punks coming up tonight. Some really nice punks. One of the punks that I went to buy the other day for, and it sold the day before I went to buy it, or the morning of the day I was buying it. It's just come back up for sale. Oof. Alright, I have this feeling we're going to be moving into this please. Fucking God, please. Alright. You can reject. Question may have answered. Why the stop there and not the bottom red line? Because it shouldn't go back below the area of impulse. So there's no point having a stop. There's no point having a stop below the red line because I don't need it to be below the red line, right? If this candle, you have to imagine, right? If buyers force this out of here, there's no reason why the buyers should ever let this get back below here, because this is where their buys are. And so if we do start getting way below their entry, then, you know, this is a given. So in terms of kind of preservation of the position, then this would be defended. So the area that we know the buyers have existed should be defended in order to try and get us higher. Which is why whenever we look at taking breakout plays, we usually always have our stop below the area of impulse, the breakout candle. Because the buyers should defend this area. The longer the trend line lasts, the weaker the breakout. I've never heard that before. It's probably going to be on the wick, but I would imagine it would get shifted pretty soon after, to be honest with you. I mean, like, the sellers are still defending this area. You can see it here. When we're getting close to this, we're still getting the sellers coming in. So, you know, we're just holding back on this. We don't want to position into this yet. We're just watching and waiting. It would be nice if the next 30 seconds produced a breakout, so we've got something to base on. Because if it doesn't, then it means we've got a fresh 15-minute candle. We have to think about what happens if it does make an upside move. So we'll see. Yeah, Sweet says, yeah. Is it true you're looking to buy a punk for you? Like fuck. Like fuck. New bid of 32 on this this pink hair with the hat. Seller needs to take that 100%. Someone put a punk up for 0 earlier. I don't know what happened there. But they listed at 0. Wild. Yeah, we just switched to 30-minute. We got the hourly, right? My dad owns Sotheby's. I've already got the deal sorted for the punk anyway. So it's not even listed. I spoke to the guy directly of the punk that I want, so it's all sorted. You don't worry about that. This is the problem market. This one is the problem market. Ronaldo. Ronaldo, 100%. Yeah, the inhales. I need to get as much nicotine in my body as possible, as quickly as possible. In fact, it's a good reminder to charge. Yeah, does it have a ciggy? It does. It does have a ciggy. What type of vape do you have? Oh man, I got loads. I got loads, dude. Like maybe 30. Ah, nah, not a jewel. Not a jewel. What are you vaping? Cherry menthol. 30 vapes. Like minimum. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 on my desk currently. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 on the shelf above me. And there's probably 20 or more downstairs. Eight is stronger than BTC. I gotta wait. I gotta wait. I gotta wait. Please. Please, Charles. Every time you vape, my nicotine sensors go off. I assume that means, and I have to vape. Yeah. Best recommendation? Not a jewel. Just get something like relatively decent. So like a lot of people use what are called pod mods at the moment, which are just like super simple. You know, put in a coil, load up with juice, slap it on top of your mod, and you're good to go. There's loads of good stuff. Best brand for kind of out of the box retail vapes is Aspire. Best brand by a mile. Best coils, best devices, and yeah, like for those people asking, I collected quite a lot of vapes. That was my hobby for a long time. A lot of very expensive vapes. Alright, we're going to enter. Are we? Fuck that hourly, man. Is vaping not bad for the lungs? Nah, man. It's like medicine for them. Nah, like Benjamin, like no, like you keep on asking about BTC, right? So like, if in your situation, you seem very preoccupied with what BTC is doing. So I mean this in the best possible way, right? But this is an ADA chart, right? Not BTC. If I wanted to trade BTC and or I cared about what BTC was doing, I would be on the BTC chart. So if I'm trading ADA, then I'm trading ADA, regardless of what BTC is doing. And the classic example of that for you, right, in this situation is when you trade BTC, do you look at what the SPX chart is doing? Because BTC and SPX are correlated. So before you make a decision on BTC, do you check SPX? But then at the same time, before you check the SPX and before you trade but based on the SPX chart, do you check the dollar? Because the dollar is also correlated. Right? So you see the way this link can go all the way back. And you can just basically continually look across correlated assets. So we trade the chart that we're in, irrespective of what BTC is doing. Right? We just trade this. So don't worry about BTC. And if it is something that you believe that BTC does have a wider impact on, things like this, for example, like focus on BTC, because that's still a really good thing to do, right? It's just have your focus on BTC. But otherwise, don't worry about the correlation. Like, don't worry about that. Yeah, and kind of same point, I guess, to you as well, Stu. Like, the BTC pair's irrelevant to me. Irrelevant. All good, Benjamin. All good. We just try and maintain as much focus on a single market as possible. Because within crypto, it's very different. It's very difficult to try and continually cross compare. Because you miss out on opportunity. Because we know that alts have the ability to perform independently into different degrees of success versus BTC. So it's very, very difficult to try and continually cross-compare. Like, I can't do this because BTC hasn't done this. Because you're then trading two charts instead of one. You're trading two charts instead of just one. And so you miss signals because the other chart didn't give you the go-ahead to do it, right? Like, it just fucks you. So just try and focus on that single chart you're trading. Because otherwise you'll continually... And the other thing that we tend to do is we tend to like use it as confirmation of like why we should be nervous about entering a position, or why we take extra confluence in entering a position. So ideally here, if this ADA chart here closes, then ideally what I'd like to do is have a stop under here. But I don't think I'll go that aggressive just yet. Cable Hawk was saying the same thing about trading a coin based on what BTC is doing. When you put it that way about the dollar and the SPX, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's usually because, like I said, like people tend to always give the kind of like, well, what if BTC does this? But then they never consider that BTC is also correlated to things. But it kind of everything stops at BTC, which is kind of right. But at the same time, you can also make an argument that you can always do that case of correlation across the markets for everything. 2.5 minutes to get the close. But isn't it right that a BTC move down will cuck this breakout? Yeah, potentially. But it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant because I'm not trading BTC. I'm not going to base my decisions on ADA or on BTC. Because under that logic, right? Under your logic, and again, I'm not trying to be critical here, within reason. But like under your logic, I don't even need to look at the ADA chart. Because if I see that BTC is moving up, I don't even need to look at this chart, I can just long it. Because all you're doing is you're basing your thought process on ADA on what BTC is doing. So actually you can just close down the ADA chart, load up the BTC chart. If BTC goes up, then long ADA. Right? If BTC goes down, then short ADA. What I'm saying is it's more complex than that. And that we have a setup for ADA that looks attractive. No, I don't take any BTC movement confluence. Like I said before, right, it's very, very clear in my head. I'm not trading two charts to trade one. There's no need. If I've got a setup on an alt, I'll play the setup. There's no reason to use BTC. Well, aren't we glad we waited? How about if BTC is at resistance and the alt is at support? Do you let that influence your assessment of probability that the setup will work? That would seem like a relatively rare situation. That would seem like a relatively rare situation. Loma shorted ICP. I think that's a really solid play. I think that's a really solid play. I think ADA long is better, but Do you send market gains for charity, like a percentage of a massive trade? No. If there's a good cause that I'll contribute to, then sure. But I'm not a regular donator. And I honestly refer to BTC all the time when trading alts. Sounds like it's a habit I should stop doing. It doesn't work for me. Right? It doesn't work for me. I think it's, yeah, something that doesn't work for me. I just don't like trading two things. I should be able to make a decision from one chart. Like if ADA doesn't break out here, like for example, if ADA doesn't break out, then I know that BTC's gone down. That's fine. Do you jump into other traders' calls? No. I don't. This looks really good to me. Are you friends with anyone from CT in real life? Not really. Not really. Like not in like person to person. No. Yeah, what are we, 25 minutes off the 1 hour close? Yeah, you're right, Robert, that would be nice. Is there a situation where you would have long the lower trend line? Yeah, there is. So, I was talking about that kind of at the start of the stream. I think that building into a position, 50% of the lows and 50% of the breakout was absolutely a play. Right at the very start of the stream, that was my thought process and what I was discussing. This doesn't seem like a power move out of the market structure. Maybe the move is weak and falls apart the first resistance. I don't think you know enough information to say that. Personally, everything that I want to see on ADA is currently happening. So I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing here. Yeah, I think waiting for the 1 hour close is relatively sensible at this point in time. Because I think it gives BTC a chance to do what it wants to do. And whether or not it's going to suck shit from ADA and alts. Because that's an option, right? It drains alts in terms of BTC chads. And we need to make sure that this is a clear breakout on the hourly. Need to make sure it's a clear breakout on the hourly. BTC is going to try and push this. So we'll see what happens now. I think the hourly is the best marker for time here from both sides, both down and up. And we'll see what happens to ETH. Oh, nice. ETH didn't give a shit. Nice move here. Yeah, so now that is one of the interesting moments, right? So you see that interaction then between BTC and the alt. Right? The strong BTC move and then the sell-off in ADA. So that's relatively interesting, but again, it doesn't really affect our play. It's a cash pair. We would expect it to still act in relative accordance. Yeah. I try and make it 8 winning days in a row. Now if ETT breaks here, then I obviously anticipate ADA breaking too. And I think BTC runs to 37. I think this is a sensible trade as well. I think you can take this BTC trade. I think you could take this here. Stop below here. Run out to here. Slide the stop up as we go. I just like the potential on ADA. I really, really like the potential on ADA. We got 19 minutes. I said at the start of this stream that I thought the market was going to like pump the open. Pretty pleased with the reaction so far in terms of that. It's now whether or not it can sustain this. Is a stop loss on a BTC short at 35,800 reasonable? Why would you want to short this? Yeah, why would you want to short? Oh, you're in a short? I know, 35,800 seems pretty high. Like, this is resistance here, right? At the 35k here. So, like, if we get above this, then you're probably wrong. So, I don't know, for me it would be like a lot lower. Told my wife I'm unavailable for the next 19 minutes. That's a very good choice. What we'll do at the end of the 19 minutes is I'll say, or maybe we'll wait till the next hourly before we take a position. I know it sounds to me like you're kind of placing your trade or your stop on what you don't know versus what you know. So like it sounds to me like you've made up a story in your head about what BTC is going to do, and you've placed your stop in a region that facilitates that process. Versus BTC breaking upwards out of a consolidation region. So showing strength, being aggressive, moving to the upside out of consolidation. That's what you know. Alright, let's assume that it closes high. But your stop loss is set based on a story you've made up. That would be my thought process. So you've painted a story about BTC is going to go up, it's going to sweep the highs, and I'm going to put my stop to survive that. But you're basically, I think you're giving yourself a poor stopping distance because of that rationale that you've created. Yeah, this is kind of similar to ETH. Kind of similar to ETH here, building up the divergences. Yeah, it looks nice. You just got to be aware that, you know, this can try and invalidate this. So just be careful with Aave. But yeah. Agreed, the bear div is definitely there and it's in the right location. Has the bear div on ETH played out for you? I would say no, which is kind of one of the cautious things to be aware of. So I would give that a no for now. I think we're in a position at the moment where BTC has attempted to make this push higher. And we can delete this. BTC has attempted to make this push higher. We've got another 12-13 minutes. RSI is in a really good position to try and break out of this consolidation to the upside. 5 minute is overbought, so we know there's going to be some sort of correction here. Yeah, so we're looking, you know, coming down back down to the 37, 34, 500, 700, somewhere down here. and then hopefully BTC basically selling off in the next 2 candles and then trying to rally for the last 5 minutes of the hourly. That would be the ideal scenario from a BTC perspective. Now ETH is trying to make its push. The one thing about this divergence is that ETH can easily consolidate here and play out this divergence like this. Because keeping in mind that this region below us is higher time frame support. So I think that's the only thing to be aware of on ETH. It's very difficult to start playing into divergences like this. And you've got to remember, you know, ETH has shown good strength here. ETH has rallied really, really well. So it's just where you need to have a bit of caution. Because also, remember what I said about this? This was significant. RSI breaking above 50 for the first time in 10 days is very, very important. This is a significant marker that the market is basically telling you it wants to go higher. So you've got to be very careful putting yourself on the opposite side of momentum. And sometimes it's why the bearish divergence is. You need to understand the situation that we're in and why it may not be the correct play for right now. Yeah, this is a great div on ICP. I would like to see it push a little higher. Like, I'd love to see it creep up into this 58.60 zone. "15 minutes got a great div so far. Yeah, maybe it's got a little bit more in. Or maybe ICP is the ultimate short here. I mean, like, where does ICP go from here? What's the liquidity like? Relatively decent. Liquidity is relatively decent, actually. I thought it would be worse. My lungs are blessed. And my lungs are fucking fantastic. I told you, it's like medicine, man. That's why I'm able to take these long inhales. Yeah, we're not having a vape. We're not having a vape channel. Do you watch the Premier League or just the big tourneys? I watch all football. All football. Premier League, lower leagues, international tournaments, international friendlies, whatever. Thoughts on Wolves? Scum. Yeah, scum. Aston Villa, scum. Birmingham, not as scummy. It was a great day of football. Incredible day. Don't tell Pierre, but kind of very happy France went out. Very happy. And I just gotta hope that the Germany game isn't too bad. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it at all tomorrow. Divergences again over here in an awkward position. Man, Ada really is wanting to stay locked in here. 7 minutes to go. I'm not sure you did, Robert. I think you're okay. I think you're okay. England are going nowhere with Southgate? What do you mean? What do you mean? We had our best World Cup performance since like 1966 by reaching the semis. I mean, shit's fine under Southgate. Is Foden actually going to bring it home? I would love to see that. Yeah, okay. Lomas looking for a 9% down move. Yeah, that's fair enough. Ada. What a fucking beautiful project. This is the mushroom pump. Czech Republic will win the tournament. They were very good. They were very good. I mean, obviously England cruised to a victory, but they were very good against the Dutch. I think I can just copy and paste the same trade description from Ada as the first one. Frank de Boer, worst manager in Premier League history. Yeah. I remember reading that article. Yeah, Belgium-Italy will be a great game. That's a great game. I said Italy from the start. I said Italy would win. Yeah, I don't think you can share the link. But I think he was like 7 matches without a win and no goals scored before he was sacked, right? Something like that, or his stats. Well, looks like it's time to get scammed. Oh, fuck. Alright, so we got the closeout. Good start. 5 minute gives us some cause for concern, given the fact that we are technically diverging across these highs. Very, very similar to the way that we diverged across here. And we diverged down here. So again, operating outside of the trend lines, giving us these dodgy divergences that we see here. And good news about this is there's definitely an attempt to constrain price in this region, which means that one of these sides is going to buckle. So either we get this move that rips us higher and invalidates this, or we drop back inside mid. Hourly does have the clean break of the trend line now. So we've got this nice containment of price, and we've got the move that has taken us clear of this to the upside. Which means that we would look at having a stop down here. on Ada. Yeah, that's the thing, Will. Right, so that's the consideration point here. The only thing that makes me slightly disagree with that is the RSI. But yeah, that's absolutely a consideration point. So the hesitation in my thoughts, right, are this and this. And that's really the hesitation in my thoughts. However, there's been really good interaction with the trend lines and operating outside of the diagonals, which makes those two horizontals kind of feel less important or significant to me. And the RSI looks really, really good to try and sustain a push higher, as does the 4 hour. And the 4 hour looks as though it wants to try and snap upwards from this consolidation, and this should be a really healthy move for ADA if it does pop. Only cause for concern at the moment is this 5 minute. Someone's going relatively heavy on ADA in the books. It's like 250,000 positions sitting in the books. So I think this is just the only consideration now. Again, like no real rush or panic to just go and stick my money in this again. Yeah, the ICP div is great across the highs. Short it. Yeah, the 15-minute div is nice. You probably get a nice correction from it. I would like to see it higher before I short. I really don't want to be actively trading again on lower time frames. I'm trying to step away from it, so I'm going to turn off this chart. Like ADA is something I think that will be a little bit longer in terms of play out. Like it might be the next 24 hours or so, which is fine. What are we, 2:05? Now I just play stops until the morning, and then I'll actively manage in the day. It's just really about this 5-minute divergence and the similarities to the low. That's the only real thought process at the moment. Oh man, this account fucking took off this week. Jesus. Yeah, I would suspect that ICP probably makes it quite quickly down here, 45. I don't know if that's one of the regions that Loma's looking at or not, but I would suspect that it would try and make a move down there relatively quickly. I think the other issue with ICP is, like, from like a Wales playground perspective, there's a lot of shorters. First TP is there. Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. Just told my wife I'm unavailable for the next 24 hours. I'll be streaming like a lot tomorrow. He's cutting 75% of his position there. I think that's sensible. He's basically playing a 15-minute div. That's basically what he's doing. This is a really good target area. Still feels good to be holding on this. Can't wait. Good. Good. I'll be fresh from buying more NFTs. Alright, Ada. TP1. Such a messy looking chart. Not yet. Not yet. Waking up at 5:30 to catch the stream. Man, appreciate it. There's some dedication. That is some true dedication to the cause. Early worm catches the bird. Sure that's right, bro? Yeah, we'll see how it goes tomorrow. Like, you know, obviously we need volatility in order to make the scalping good. So we'll see how the volatility is. Hopefully we get a position where the volatility is good. And that will enable us to take some trades. Apologies if that was super noisy as well down the mic, what I was doing then. We've probably got like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes left of me sitting here watching this, and then I'll close down the stream, and we'll obviously pick it back up tomorrow. I don't think there's enough information yet to be able to accurately make a decision on this. I think the hourly has broken free of the trend line. I think that's legit. I think that the same sort of lower time frame structure we're seeing here on the 5 minute to the bearish side and to the bullish side give me kind of cause for concern around entering the position here. So right now, just watching and waiting. Unless there is some significant shift in terms of a 5 minute candle that puts in some upside momentum, then I think it really is just a case of, you know, waiting for now. I've got to stop buying NFTs. Just as my notifications go off for my last purchases. Beautiful. What does Renko say about ETH here? This is beautiful. Okay, yeah, so 5 minute with the major divs up here. ICP shortlist looking pretty good, huh? Yeah. Not quite free falling, but it's definitely lost another 1%. Good div here on Franco. What are you looking for? Looking for a change in this lower time frame action. I'll show you now. Looking for a change in this here. So we're creating a dodgy bear div here, which means that I can't long it on this area. And you see here, right? And then we did the same down here on a bull div. which, you know, leads me to believe that this is still, you know, battling between this region. So I can't take any plays on this, you know, just yet in this region. I actually think that, you know, potentially an ETH short is a really solid play here to hedge against the long creation. But again, I don't want to take that going into sleep. Renko looks clean as hell for the div. Looks very, very clean for the divergence. SNX above 7, yeah, only $5 to go, man. So we get back to the first buy. Yeah, I mean, I think ETH looks like a really solid play. The only thing that ETH may try and do is squeeze a little bit more here. I mean, it's up against a decent area. Pretty solid, pretty solid selling above here. Where's the liquidity for ETH? What futures contract? September's fucked. Yeah, straight back inside here. It's just a no-go. Yeah, so we did really well actually this time in terms of waiting for the reaction so far. It doesn't mean to say that, you know, either ADA or BTC are going to stay down for long. You know, this may be the bounce point for ADA. We've done well to wait on kind of this thought process here that's developing. I haven't looked at ETH BTC. Let's take a quick look. I'm assuming it did pretty well today. Oh, what a Chad. That's a fucking great move for ETH BTC. Into resistance now here. 0.06. Hopefully consolidation back inside here. Is it possible we have strength to move market on lower calls? Yes, especially something like OCP. Absolutely, 100%, no doubt about it. Good night, MLK. Alright, we'll wrap up there. There's not much else of value we can discuss. This was a good discussion, right? It's a good session in terms of a discussion point. We didn't manage to figure out the entry into Ada. I think that's fine. We didn't manage to figure out what this looked like. I think there's a thought process still here that if we do start to see momentum breaking clear of this region here, probably above 135, then we've got a pretty good entry in order to be able to try and take a setup. The one thing we need to be concerned about here, and the one side that we may wish to take on alts, is ETH. So ETH is potentially going to put in its another divergence into this high here, and this would definitely be something you want to keep an eye on if you're planning on staying up or your time zone is different to mine. This is definitely something you may want to take a look at as an area of interest in order to try and short ETH. With a target of back down here at the early 2000s, maybe the mid 1900s. I think there's a couple of really nice areas and setups you can look at. I'll be back tomorrow. As I said, there's a long stream lined up tomorrow where we'll go through plenty of live trades. We'll go through plenty of thought process discussion. Basically, I'm going to, for a while, kind of ignore chat and just kind of, vocalize my thought process, what I'm looking at on the charts, what my different, charting software is telling me, etc. So I'm kind of just give you an insight into my head when I'm trading. And that will be around 10 o'clock BST. It will be recorded, so anybody that isn't going to be there, it will be recorded. So I will catch up with you guys then. Thank you very much for listening to my rambling for a while. And again, we didn't manage to get into an ADA setup. We had a really good thought process behind it. Hopefully we may have dodged a bullet there, but we'll see. And I look forward to chatting to you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your evenings.